if we really look at the roots of where so many of our mental illnesses come from, it's loneliness, it's trauma, it's difficult relationships, not just relationships with others and our significant others or our family or work colleagues, but relationships with ourselves.
Right.
And if we are allowed to have the space to really open our heart and feel what that love is, or remind us what that love feels like, it just can just change your perspective overnight in ways that you would never have imagined.
Yeah. I mean,
But for
all of
now, we've
that.
got to work. We've got to work in the bounds that we've got. And in Australia, I'm so proud and blessed that we have access for MDMA for PTSD. I
Right.
take that as a win.
Yeah, that's an enormous win. I think where I
Mm.
hope for the future to go, at least, is so there's a therapist I spoke to maybe a year ago on the show, and something she said really left a mark on me. That so people sometimes that have these, these big traumas in life, they know that, when they're younger or whatever, know that in some respects they need to go get help. They find a support group, maybe they'll find a therapist. They know that there was this event that they can see that's very, very stark in their mind. They know that maybe they should talk to somebody about this. But she said there's also a
Mm.
bunch of people who maybe grew up in a very, you know, critically minded, critical, judgmental household that
Mm.
also might experience worse outcomes growing up because they don't know that they need to get help. It just seems like everyone else in their community. Do you know, like me, I've discussed this with a bunch of my friends in the Italian, Canadian community, and we just laugh, being like, yeah, that's what growing up Italian is. Like, you can't move in your
Mhm.
house unless someone says, like, oh, you need to do that. Why are you doing that? Why are you wearing that clothes? Why'd you do that with your hair? Like, all of these things that,
Mhm.
like, on the level comes on some level from culture, from love, and they are super funny in many respects. But how I understood what that therapist said is that, like, if you grow up in an environment where you're always questioned for what you're doing, or someone criticizes you, like, that leaves an imprint as well. And so
Mm.
I wonder if there's an element, and again, I don't want to conflate that experience with like PTSD that is much more stark and traumatic, but I think you see
Mhm.
the parallels I'm trying to draw, where you wonder if how
Mhm.
many people would benefit from these hard openers because maybe they were taught to guard themselves growing up,
Mhm.
and they stayed a little bit closed because of an environment that wasn't violent. It just wasn't conducive to openness. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Mhm. There's something important in there too, and I have a passion for men's mental health, and the three biggest killers for men are heart disease, lung cancer, and suicide. And the
Yeah.
reality is when you're working with men, and I work with lots and lots of men in my clinical practice, is emotional suppression is how men survive. That's how men view masculinity. That's how they've been conditioned by society. And I really feel that if we're talking on a futuristic level of what this could look like, I really think the world would change overnight if even just men were invited to have these heart openers to really feel and process those emotions they've held and pushed down for so long across their life and across their development, because society told them they weren't allowed to feel that way because it's not masculine.
Right.
But
And
in
I would
reality,
go ahead.
when we look at what a man is, it's somebody that can wear their heart on their sleeve, that can, yes, sure, be stoic in the moment they need to be stoic in, but also own their feelings, have boundaries, but know who they are, not who
Right.
society told them to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that. I'm doing research on a project right now for about men and boys, and
Mm-hmm.
the add-on I'd like to give to that is a lot of the reason why men act in these ways is because it's not that society has told them that they have to be a certain way. It's like there is a disincentive for them to open up. They've been taught, I think, throughout their whole lives, from the interviews I've done and the experts I've spoken to, that anytime they try to either connect more with themselves or with other men, or even just be vulnerable in different scenarios with partners, etc., they're often punished for it. And so
Mm.
men learn that it's incentivized to be accepted by their peer groups, or to be not punished. They should just be quiet and not have, and not feel their pain, and not accept their pain, and not connect. And so there's these two sides where I think they have this inability sometimes to connect with themselves. And if you can't connect with
Mm.
yourself, it's even more difficult to connect with other people. And if every time you try to open up, you're kind of socially, emotionally punished for that opening, you just learn that it's better to just not. So I think there's kind of two sides to this equation that I think is going to take time. But I'm with you that I hope the future is more accepting of this kind of emotional revolution I think men are starting to go through. But it's quite a heavy lift for our societies. But I'm definitely with you.